All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Kyle Shelton. I am the director of the Center for Transportation Studies at the University of Minnesota. Thanks for joining us for this webinar around the MATI program, the Mobility, Access, and Transportation Insecurity program. I'm joined by my colleague, Beth Andrews, who you're also seeing on screen now, who's our MATI program manager. This is the first of two webinars. We are going to start to record this as I go because this portion of the information that I share today will be posted to the website and folks can return to it. Those of our friends and colleagues around the country who aren't able to join us today can access it there as well, and you can share it and review it as well. We will be recording this first segment that I share information on, and then we'll stop the recording when you get to the Q&A section, because that'll just be me one-sidedly reading your questions and then answering them, and that's not exactly riveting television. So appreciate you again joining us today. We will get started digging into this RFP and the second round of the MATI program. We're gonna, just as a broad agenda for today, I'm gonna talk through what the program is, what the RFP is, how that's going to function, what the process and timeline will look like. Then we'll give you some other touch points for us to answer more questions or gain more information from Beth and I over the coming months here. And then we will reserve as much time as we need for Q&A. One other message I will give about the Q&A is that you do not need to feel like you need to attend multiple webinars or office hours or other pieces to get your question, or out of fear that you will miss questions or answers. You are welcome to attend anything you'd like and obviously get questions answered. But today, next week's webinar, and the office hours, anytime somebody asks a question that we recognize to be pertinent outside of just the specifics of their question, we will be capturing that and posting it to a FAQ that will be on the MATI website. Feel free to also keep an eye out for that. We will share that with the full list of folks who have opted into MATI alerts as we go forward. I also am gonna apologize in advance. I'll probably have at least one coughing fit while we go today, so I will mute myself if that happens, but bear with me on that. Okay, so just several of you have probably seen versions of this or heard about our program, and if not, I'm excited to share about it some more with you. Before I get into what MATI as a program is and what we're doing with the RFP, just want to do a little level setting around what we mean when we talk specifically about transportation insecurity. And this is a relatively broad definition that we're using and hoping that you all recognize some of the work and opportunities and challenges you see in your day-to-day here as well. For us, it's really a range of items. You see a couple examples here. It's everything from being unable to reach needed destinations, apologies, to not taking trips because you're not certain that you have the transportation you need to get there, or not knowing where transportation is going to come from, right? So a pretty broad definition of what transportation insecurity could mean. It obviously manifests itself differently for different individuals and communities. But this is at the core of what the MATI program is trying to identify answers to and responses to. And we are excited to be working with you and others to explore that more. So the MATI program itself, this is a program that is funded by the Federal Transit Administration. It's administered by Beth and I and others at the University of Minnesota and a broader program team. In addition to myself as PI, we're joined by a co-PI, Dr. Yingling Fan from University of Minnesota's Humphrey School for Public Affairs, as well as great partners from the Center for Neighborhood Technology and from Tool Design, who are helping support the whole effort and support communities who are participating in it. This is the RFP and the webinar for round 2 of the MATI program. Round 1 is currently in process. We ran a similar RFP last year and were able to select 8 sites to participate in that round 1. That's ongoing right now. This RFP is for round 2. We have a smaller tranche of funding for round 2, and it is focused specifically on smaller and rural communities of fewer than 50,000 people. So round 1 was focused on large urban areas. Round 2 is explicitly focused on smaller rural communities across the nation, including tribal nations. We'll go through some other eligible entities and eligible geographies in a moment. But round 2 is really focused on that fewer than 50,000 people outside of major urban areas, and we'll go through a little bit more about that in a bit. The program itself actually sits in the research and innovation arm of the FTA. It is really oriented towards having you all think about community-driven ideas and community-up solutions to some of the transportation insecurity ideas challenges you're confronting in your neighborhoods and communities. Um, and it is looking for innovative responses to those. And critically, for our purposes and what our team is doing, aside from administering the whole program, is also under the direction of Dr. Fan, tracking and evaluating how those groups that get to the full demonstration, how those demonstrations actually perform, what impacts they have on people's lives, and what it is we can share about those demonstrations for others who might be considering a similar project or trying to address a similar challenge. Another important designation of this program is that it is not limited to sort of traditional transportation approaches or to a single mode, even though it is funded by the Federal Transit Administration. It is not to say that every solution has to include a bus or a rail or on-demand transit. We can think about active transportation modes, we can think about car sharing, we can think about private vehicles. The goal here is to identify challenges you see and then to come up with innovative solutions to that, help you plan a demonstration around those, and then evaluate those demonstrations. Similarly, it does not need to be limited just to the transportation sector. It is not just a question of like, how does a person get from point A to point B? We also would encourage and want to see proposals that think about the interconnection between multiple systems. So you all probably know this for sure, but transportation is tied to housing, it's tied to healthcare, it's tied to education, it's tied to access to opportunity. And we are very open to seeing proposals that say, hey, we have a transportation solution to what is both a transportation and housing problem, for example. And we're very open to seeing those types of interconnected and acknowledging interconnected challenges there. Sorry, I forgot to ask, you're welcome at any point to add questions to the Q&A. I'm going to save them till the end, but as they come up, please drop them into the Q&A. That's how we're going to move through those at the end. A little bit more about the MADI program itself. Again, this is round 2. There are 2 phases in each round. Phase 1 of round 2, selected through the RFP that is live right now, is going to fund up to 3 applicants. Those selected applicants will receive up to $100,000 over the course of 1 calendar year, more or less, to support the development and submission of a demonstration plan. You will have the support of MADI team members and your own proposal team to come up with and identify what that demonstration is. This planning effort going on right now for the round 1 cohort, for example, includes a range of community engagement, some surveys that sites are doing, listening sessions, gathering more information from the users that they're hoping to serve, and then using all of that, some data creation and some other pieces that they're working on to submit this summer a plan for a demonstration. Similarly here, in round 2, phase 1, you would submit a similar plan if you're selected. And then from those groups that are a part of round 2, phase 1, they will submit those plans. From that subset of groups, one of those plans will be funded for a full demonstration over 2 years. And the applicant that is selected for phase 2 will receive up to $600,000 over a 2-year period to execute their demonstration, which also includes working closely with Dr. Fan and Beth and myself and others on the research and evaluation step. Just a little bit about roles here. You can see applicants and local partners, the MADI program team, the Federal Transit Administration, and we do have a MADI research committee, which is made up of leaders from across the country, helping us think through some of the parameters for this program and some of the key things we are focusing on. Just want to give a sense of where each of those actors play a role here. You all as potential applicants, obviously, are essential and are leading the plan development, the deployment and management if you move into phase 2, and the data collection if you move into phase 2. Obviously, you're welcome to give feedback and guidance and help us shape the program as we move forward, as if you're a cohort member as well. On the MADI team side, we're here for program management and administration overall. The MADI program team is the group that selects the applicants for both phase 1 and phase 2. Neither the FTA nor the MADI Research Committee has a voice or a role in that final selection. We, as the university and our program team, are selecting those final applicants. And then we are there to support you at the Maddie team with the plan development, the deployment, the data collection. The U of M team in particular is in charge of the research and evaluation with support from our team members, Tool and CNT. And then FTA and the research committee, FTA obviously is providing the funding. There's obviously some oversight and guidance on the program management from our FTA colleagues, and they are also giving us overall guidance and feedback on our efforts overall. We quarterly report in with them and touch base about the work that's happening. Similarly, the Maddie Research Committee is here for feedback and helping us shape the program and helping us stay up to date on some of the thinking and work across transportation. Again, just another way to articulate this process. We're here in this Maddie RFP stage. We'll talk through more of those details today. Once those are submitted by late April, our Maddie program team will review them. We will select phase one sites. The deliverable for those up to three phase one sites will be that demonstration plan and a few other elements. That'll be submitted a year after selection. That will be reviewed, and of those three, one will be selected in this round two to move on to the phase two, which is the $600,000 demonstration and research evaluation process. So the timeline, just based on that last slide, that we anticipate at this moment are the selection of phase one participants this spring. So again, applications will be due at the end of April. We will try to turn around those decisions by the beginning of June and contract and begin work in the summer. So a selection of phase one participants in the spring, phase one execution, the development of the demonstration plan as soon as the selections are made, summer 2025, about a calendar year into summer 2026. Then there will be that subsequent competition to fund a demonstration plan, just one plan in this case. That entity will be selected again in summer of 2026. And then the phase two execution and demonstration and research deployment will happen between summer of 2026 and summer of 2028. There's that coughing fit, apologies. Here are some of the key dates in this RFP round, just to be aware of, and all of this again is available on the website. And Beth, I may ask you to drop that into our chat here again if people don't already have it, but most of you probably should. The RFP was released in January. You're obviously on one of the first webinars. There's another one next week. Every week between February 13th and March 13th, I will be on an office hour in the middle of the day on Thursdays to answer questions from anybody. There is a required expression of interest, which is a simple one-page Google form that we're asking people to submit. Outlines who you are, who the potential applicant lead is, who some of your team members are. Gives us a little bit more information about where you're located so we can confirm your eligibility and get that back to you before you're really in the throes of the full application. We have a question deadline of April 1st. We will post all those questions and answers to the Maddie webpage. And then finally, the full proposals are due on April 30th of 2025. Okay, a few details here about required steps. Again, all of this can be rehashed on the Maddie page that Beth just shared, but just want to give a few more details. Again, the expression of interest, here are the questions that you're going to be asked. You need to identify where your demonstration community is. We do ask if there is a transit agency serving you that you let us know who it is. They don't need to be a part of the program team. You can see the eligibility section for more there, but we are curious if there are transit agencies serving you or transit providers serving your area. We asked for the proposed makeup. There is a question about the identification of a team lead, and then a brief description of your project or your idea. What are you thinking? What are you proposing? How do you see that as a good fit for the Maddie program? We will then turn those expressions of interest around and we will confirm with a yes or no that your team is eligible and the way you've described your project is eligible. We may ask for some clarifying questions or other things, but we will confirm that no later than April 1st. And then you still have an entire month to submit the proposal by April 30th via email. Those details again are on the webpage. In terms of eligibility, and again, I don't have the links here, they're on the page, and Beth, maybe as I go through, you can share them as well. But just reiterating here, for round two, the proposal team must serve or primarily occur outside of a census designated urban area of 50,000 people. We have two ways to look at that. There's a map that we have shared on our website from the FTA and the USDOT that outlines urban areas based on population. It includes, it shows urban areas that can expand beyond single jurisdictions to show the whole urban area of more than 50,000 people. Anything on that map that is in an urban area of more than 50,000 people is ineligible to be the lead. The focus of the work cannot happen inside one of those ineligible areas. It has to be really centered on a group or a community or jurisdiction outside of those ineligible areas. There is also a spreadsheet that shows by urban area name the ineligible areas as well. Those are the same thing presented in two different ways. And we welcome queries if you have questions. But the bottom line is if you're in one of the ineligible urban areas of more than 50,000 people, even if it's a smaller jurisdiction inside of the urban area, you cannot be the primary focus. One exception or one thing to think about there is if the proposing team is from a small eligible rural community and the need is to bring those residents to a larger area, a larger urban area or a larger population center, that is an eligible possibility. It just has to be centered on the smaller community. The team members, primarily the lead, have to be centered on that smaller community or jurisdiction. It cannot be a large city saying, we're going to serve this smaller city. It really needs to be oriented towards the smaller community and can connect to larger centers if that's part of the answer. And I think I've hit all that. So we can also answer other questions as we go. Team structure, again, all available on the website. Just wanted to hit this. These are all eligible team members to different degrees. Nonprofit and community-based organizations are a really big part of this program. We want to make sure that a significant chunk of the budget is going to one of those types of organizations in order to give them the capacity to participate in the community engagement, to have the resources they need to really ensure that this can be a community-driven and informed process. Multiple other entities can be eligible team members. Again, there's not a required configuration here. These are all entities that could be a part of a program, a part of a coalition applying. A few things to note. Again, public transit agencies are eligible to be a part of it in all their forms. They do not have to be on a team. You're not required to have a public transit agency on your team. None of these are requirements aside from the nonprofit and community-based organization, as I'll show. A couple things to highlight on for-profits. Obviously, again, we recognize that rural and smaller communities and jurisdictions are different from urban areas. There are different federal and state and local agencies that participate in different ways. So we've added a little bit more detail here at each of those levels. We also recognize that for-profit employers within a proposing jurisdiction might be an interesting partner given the rural and small community focus. And similarly, other for-profit and private organizations, consultants, others can be a part of the team, but they can't be the lead applicant. So for-profit groups can participate, they cannot be the lead. And then just a note for any university or other research organizations interested, you are welcome to lead and be a part of a team if that's the structure that you're putting together. You're also welcome to support a team. One thing to highlight from the very beginning is that anything that another research unit might do or be interested in asking questions about, you have to coordinate with the Maddie program team on, and there will be some rules around conducting separate standalone research from our own research efforts, but we will communicate that to teams that include those members. But universities and other research units are certainly eligible to participate. I've already touched on some of this, but just again, a little bit more detail on the team structure. Again, there isn't a required structure outside of these few pieces. You can put multiple teams together, multiple eligible units together, as long as you meet a couple of these key bullets. The nonprofit or community-based organizations that are a part of a proposing team have to together represent at least 40% of the budget. And I want to strongly recommend that that 40% of the budget stay with those nonprofits and community-based organizations. We don't want to see that as a pass-through saying this group is going to get 40% of this, but actually they're subcontracting X out. So the goal is really to give capacity to those community partners. The applicant lead does not have to be the nonprofit or community partner. It can be selected from one of those other eligible entities. The lead applicant, if it is not the nonprofit partner, needs to have at least 30% of the proposal, again, to make sure that we know there's adequate staff time and support for the efforts from the lead applicant. And then just a couple other key notes here. Team members that aren't receiving funding, so let's just say a state department of transportation or a county government or a larger agency, they can be in your team without being a part of the proposed budget. They just cannot be the lead applicant. So if a team member is not receiving direct funding, they can't be the lead applicant. They are still welcome to be on the team and to show support and engagement with the effort. And similarly, any non-lead team member can be on the proposal without having budget. If you're going to include people who don't have budget, though, again, we do expect that you can show some demonstration of the dedication and commitment to the program. It does not require match, but it could be internal resources or internal time from a partner. It could be letters of support, other things like that. And one final note is that we are looking for ways to think about these programs to be sustainable long term, well after around phase two. And one of the things that we will be thinking about and looking for is that applicant groups that combine the nonprofit community-based org requirement with at least one public agency or jurisdiction. Again, not just transit agencies, but public agencies that might be able to have a little bit of a better chance to maintain a program after the Maddie funding is something that we're interested in, and will be given greater consideration in a review than just, say, a standalone application from one nonprofit entity. Budget details, again, have talked about this, and again, all of this information is there, but wanted to talk through it at a high level once more. Phase one, what you're applying for right now in the RFP, $100,000 to support the development of a demonstration plan. There's a budget template on the website. Budget items include the project manager from the lead to develop the plan, other labor and costs there from the team. There is a travel requirement because we will convene this cohort of 3 together at some point during the year of funding to do some shared learning and check in on that progress. So that travel can be budgeted as a part of this. And then other eligible spending is included, but not limiting the following items: kind of community support for participation and engagement, technical support for planning and engineering and development of the materials that may be required as a part of the demonstration plan. And that can either be done by team members or other subcontractors that may be required, as long as, again, the structure of the team is maintained. And I've already mentioned this once, there is no match requirement. So this funding for those selected comes with no match dollars required. It is not prohibited either. Again, if you do have a partner who says we're going to have in-kind time or we're augmenting the Maddie dollars, that's all fine, but it is not required. That in and of itself does not give you a benefit in review or anything like that, but there are ways to include match. Just a snippet of some of the key proposal items here to give you a sense of what we're going to be looking for as you move towards the final application. We're going to want you to define your intervention, why you think it'll be important, who's it going to impact, what are the groups that you think it'll serve, who are the communities and populations that you're hoping to provide more transportation security to. Also, on the project team, why is the team that you've put together positioned to be effective? How's it going to be work? How's it going to work? How's the work going to be divided and carried out? We're really looking for some clearly thought out, like, here's why we have this team. Here's who's going to be doing what. Here's why we're going to help, how we're going to succeed. Again, this evaluation sort of selection and review pieces, these are some of the items that we will include in our evaluation and selection of cohort 1. All of this, again, is available on the Maddie website, and you can look at your leisure and review. But it includes things like project elements. So again, who's the project focused on? Is it something that feels scalable if it's successful in your location? Excuse me. Team elements, again, are you hitting those team requirements and eligibilities? And then just, simply programmatic fit. Is it feasible? Are you proposing something that if it gets to a demonstration phase is going to cost millions of dollars? Or have you thought about the fact that the phase 2 is a relatively limited $600K? Things like that. A few future touch points. I'm wrapping up here, and so if you have questions, please start to put those in the Q&A. We're not going to have this is just a full webinar, so just need to have you type it into the Q&A, and then I'll work my way through them. A few other touch points, as I've already mentioned. There is another webinar. The content will be the exact same next week on February 11th at 10 a.m. Central. We wanted to have a few different time slots for folks. Again, there are office hours every Thursday starting next week, February 13th, from 11 to 12 Central. And I'll just, reiterate there again, questions asked there that seem pertinent to all, if they're not drilled down to a really specific example, will be something that we share on the Maddie site through an FAQ. And then if you have general questions about the RFP and about the program, those are due by April 1st. Again, Beth and I will work with our team to answer those and get them posted on the FAQ page. I will stop our time here and just take questions now. I just want to share here is contact information for Beth and I. This presentation will also be available online, and all of our information is on the website as well. And then I'm going to leave this up as we start to do questions. This will take you to the Maddie web page, and you can sign up for our mailing list directly, just focused on Maddie, and we'll give you alerts and other updates as those are happening. So I will leave that QR code up for a few moments, and then I'm going to pause. We will stop the recording, and any questions that you all have, I will start to go through. So thank you for listening, and